Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenge of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me today to chat man stuff are Ryan and Maddie. Firstly, gents, how are you both?
Good, boys. Good. Had a pretty good long weekend. We didn't really do the traditional Australia Day barbecue, everyone around kind of thing this year. We spent Saturday looking at tiles for a potential renovation we're going to be doing here. So spent a few hours doing that. Mum and Dad are up here for the impending birth of my new niece or nephew. So my brother's and his wife are about to give birth, so they're waiting for that. So while Mum and Dad are here, they're doing some babysitting. So we took advantage of that on the weekend and got a few things done.
The old family chop out. You got to love that one. What about you, Ryan?
Not much. Just enjoyed a long weekend. Relived a bit of being a kid, some childhood memories, watching the Dragon Ball Z movie with a good buddy of mine over the weekend. But nice and relaxed, to be honest.
How was the Dragon Ball Z movie? How does it rate compared to other versions of the TV show? How many stars are we giving it?
It was pretty good. I'd probably give it 4.5 actually. It was much better than I expected. I may have gone in with low expectations, so that probably helped. But I definitely rated it.
There you go, punters. Get along to see the new Dragon Ball Z movie as recommended by Ryan Ebert.
Does it still have the magic that it had, 10 or 15 years ago when you're watching it as a kid? You know how sometimes these things just die off a bit and you grow out of these things, or was it as good as it was when you watched it as a kid?
No, I reckon it was possibly even better because there was like added nostalgia fact to it. And I was watching it with a buddy of mine that I had been friends with for 10, 15 years there. So we were watching it back then and watching it now, and I think that adds to it. Felt very childish and happy and go lucky, which was a big reminder to never grow up, I suppose. The whole Peter Pan thing.
It is good to tap into nostalgia and revisit things every now and again. And yeah, I can see how it would have been really cool as well. Well, gents, we are coming off the back of a long weekend, being the Australia Day weekend here in Australia. What I want to talk about is getting back into work and what our routines look like. And I'll lead off in this episode and run through what my routine looks like. And then over the next couple of weeks, both of you can have a go and give your daily routine of what it looks like on a work day. I guess as a bit of background, we run a small business. We have a team of staff who work in a professional service environment. They're a distributed workforce, so I can do my work from anywhere. So I'm really lucky with regards to that. So that's just setting the scene for what my work is. We also co-parent our 3-year-old boy. We've been doing that since the day he was born. At the moment, he hasn't gone into childcare or anything like that. We juggle it every week, and we just literally, before piecing together what semester 1 looks like, who's having him at what times during the week, and what that all looks like. So we keep an Excel spreadsheet on the fridge of the different days and who has him for what parts of those days. So it's a constant juggling act. So that's just a little bit of a scene of what my priorities and what my responsibilities are in my life. But with regards to my daily routine, I'll generally wake up between 5:30 and 6. Usually, naturally, I have an alarm set for 6:30, but that's probably woken me up once in the last sort of 6 months. So I'll wake up naturally between 5:30 and 6 a.m. At that point, I will check work emails just to see if there's any spam emails I can just get rid of. I've turned off the notifications on my phone so I don't open it up and go, oh my God, I got 50 emails. So I don't have that shock first thing in the morning of, okay, I've got that many emails I have to deal with just from overnight. I have an offshore team, so they actually send a lot of work after I go to bed. So I'll do that, get rid of the spam emails. If I wake up anytime before 6:20, I'll jump on the cross trainer for 20 minutes and do a few exercises on top of that. Have a shower. 7 o'clock is go time. That's when the little fella will wake up, and on a weekday, pretty much every day of the week, I'll get the little fella up, take him to the bathroom, have a play with him, get him breakfast at around 7:30ish is when he roughly likes to eat. And his breakfast can be anything from yogurt to, I think the other day I made him a smoothie and a toasted sandwich, or just Weet Bix. the eating process for a 3-year-old kid is about half an hour. So it's not like you kind of you just slam down some Wheat Bix and you're out of there in 2.5 minutes. So it is a process, to get him into the high chair. He still sits in a high chair to eat. Get the smock on, sit there and discuss, what is he going to do today, what he's not going to do. Mate, can you please eat your Wheat Bix? Mate, can you please have some water? Mate, just eat your Wheat Bix. So that process of feeding the little fella can go on for half an hour, and that gets me to roughly 8 o'clock. 2 mornings at the moment, 2 mornings of the week, I have responsibility, in inverted commas, for the little fella. So around 8:30, we'll go to an activity. That activity can be something as formal as we're starting swimming lessons this week on Friday. So he'll go to swimming lessons on a Friday with me. And then the other day, I'll just say, buddy, what do you want to do? He'll inevitably say he'll either, want to go to the park. If the weather's warm, he might say he wants to go to the beach. But his favourite thing at the moment is to do his favourite trifecta of things, which is go to Bunnings and just walk through Bunnings, because he always thinks there's going to be sausages there even during the week. 3-year-olds, they're crazy. So he likes to go to Bunnings. Southland, which is our local, big shopping centre like a Westfield, and Aldi. So if it's belting down rain or if it's really hot, that's the default option anyway, because we're out of the weather. So we'll do that for a couple of hours, get home 10:30, 11-ish, then it's lunchtime for him. On the back of our discussion a few weeks ago around obesity and being overweight, Ryan talking about intermittent fasting, I've been doing that for the best part of 3 weeks now. My first meal of the day is roughly at his lunchtime. So we'll sit down and we'll have some lunch. Again, it can be absolutely anything. A toasted sandwich with some fruit and water and that sort of stuff. It can be as elaborate as if we're out somewhere, we might get something to eat with a baby chino. He does at the moment lose his rag if there's no marshmallow with a baby chino. It's very unreasonable. He expects a marshmallow to be with every baby chino, even though originally, because he has an egg allergy, we said he couldn't have the marshmallows, but he's had a couple now and he's got the taste for the sugar. So it's I want the marshmallow. He probably doesn't really even care about the baby chino.
Have you narrowed down a list of cafes that are marshmallow friendly?
We have actually. We know the one to steer away from, but it's even now communicating to him, oh, listen, buddy, it's like everything. There's different recipes for things. Like that place might have a marshmallow with their chino, that joint may not. So, it's okay if they don't. It's just their recipe. Or they might have run out of marshmallows. So that's 11 o'clock.
What's it like reasoning with a 3-year-old?
Oh, it's impossible. It's like herding cats. Like you try to explain what do they say? You have to explain something like sort of 7 times before it sinks in. I think that theory was actually brought up with regards to talking to 3-year-olds, because they just don't get it. And it's really repetitive. So also at lunchtime while he's eating, and again, it's a sort of half hour to up to an hour depending on his mood of actually getting food into him. Let's say it's half an hour. During that time, I'll do a bit of dinner prep. If we're not doing a reheat job for dinner from the night before, I'll just prep some stuff up for dinner, his dinner and our dinner. He goes to bed at 1 o'clock at the moment, which is great. He still has a sleep for the best part of 1.5 to 2 hours each day. So he'll go down at 1 p.m. and generally won't get back up until around 3. He may not sleep for that whole time, but he's happy enough lying in his cot. And for me, that's work time. So I would have turned the computer on first thing in the morning after I've had my shower. I usually have about 15 minutes there to just pump out a couple of little bits and pieces, work for a couple of hours between 1 and 3 o'clock. And then it's usually handover. So my partner will take over for the afternoon shift between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. So basically, between 1 and 3 is when I'll always be doing work. And then after the handover, generally I'll be working from sort of 3 until 5. A lot of the time in that instance, because I've had the little fella for the morning, I'll work from home in the afternoon, which also means it's kind of almost constant interruptions, like knock on the door. Oh, Daddy, come out and see this puzzle. Daddy, come out the backyard and play. Daddy, come and do this. So it's not fully focused after 3 o'clock when he gets up. 5 o'clock's dinner time for him. I've started having dinner around that time as well with the sort of 16-hour intermittent fast, which is what they recommend for Ryan Ebert in the internet. If I have my final food at sort of 6 p.m, I can have my first meal at sort of 10 a.m. the next morning. So I have dinner with the little fella now, which is good. He seems to eat better when somebody's eating with him, as opposed to just being directed to, mate, just eat your dinner. Mate, just eat your dinner. Mate, no, you can't have small foot pictures. no, mate, you can't have stickman pictures. You just got to eat your dinner up. It's not, it's not entertainment time. It's food time. That finishes. Bath time at 6 o'clock, bed at 7 o'clock, and then I generally will sit down for 15 minutes and just think, wow, what a day. And then jump back on the computer and work between sort of 7 and 9 o'clock at night, then go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock and repeat the next day. So it is Groundhog Day. The only difference will be the days where I don't have the little fella in the morning. I'll get up and work until lunchtime. Those days I generally try to leave the house if I can. In the last sort of 2 or 3 months, it's got a lot harder working from home with those interruptions and him just constantly sort of barging in and wanting both of us involved all the time, it makes it a lot harder for us to kind of juggle him and also juggle the business. So
I was going to ask a question there around that. Does your partner take the little fella in after her handover just so you can get 2 or 3 hours of solid work, like maybe take him for an afternoon activity, or is it generally he has a bit of an activity just at home, a bit of home-based play? Or
yeah, a lot of the time it's home-based. He might go down to the beach for an hour or so in the afternoon, but a lot of the time it is just sort of playing around or being in the backyard. Unfortunately, at the moment when he's in the backyard, it's daddy come out, because I've always gone out in the backyard with him. That's one of the things we'll do. So he's just used to me being out in the backyard with him. But unfortunately, just because of the timing between 3:30 wake up and 5 o'clock dinner, there's not that much time to kind of get out and do something and come back.
it's a very structured day, isn't it? Sorry, I was just going to say, is there like a contingency or backup plan if something doesn't go right? Because it sounds like everything rolls into everything nice and smoothly. I know as well as anyone, and as you can, with kids, they're so unpredictable, and that half an hour meal might turn into 45 minutes, or they might just not be feeling great for the day, or something like that. So just wondering, you sound like you're across it all. You must have a bit of
outside. The issue is the sleep. If he doesn't sleep, that's when things are bad. Like if he doesn't go to sleep in the middle of the day, or if he takes ages to get to bed at night, or he's not happy in the cot, that's when there's an issue. It's different if we're not feeling great, because kids have no tolerance for that. We were both sick with gastro a couple of weeks ago. I thought I was just hungover, but it turned out there was actually gastro, which is good and bad. When we just explained, buddy, mummy and daddy are both sick today. He's like, no, sick. I'm like, oh, we can't help it, mate. We just ate something bad. We just need a day of, just playing it pretty calm and we'll be okay. But the sleep thing's the issue. If he doesn't sleep during the middle of the day, or if he doesn't go to bed easily at night, then that really throws things out of whack. If he's not feeling okay, it's fine. We can just sit down and do really low-key activities, or even put on the TV for him.
I'd really love to know, and it's sort of going off a little bit of topic here, because you work at home with your partner and you co-parent, as you mentioned before. What's it like living in the house with your partner and working in the same environment as your partner? As in, you have your work hours. I'm assuming there's a period somewhere in the week there where you're both in the same room together working, perhaps, maybe when the little guy's sleeping. How do you, separate your work life to your, home life? If there's an argument or something, as most married couples do, does it creep into does it cross borders, cross into the work life, and how do you manage that?
Now,
good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. I'm pretty abrupt with this sort of thing. Like if it's work, I'll just go, listen, this is work. It's got nothing to do with you and I as husband and wife. This is legitimately just a work thing, and we will discuss just work. Like today at about 9:30, it was like my partner came in and said, "Oh, listen, I've seen these shoes online. Can you register your email address to get 20% off on them?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can, but it's also 9:30 on a Tuesday. I really should be doing work, but I can do that." I'm like, that's the hard bit, to sort of go, okay, I'm in work mode now. Don't bother me about non-work stuff, and vice versa. Like, the little fella's good. He doesn't come in and annoy my partner when she's working. He only seems to really bother me. So I don't know what it is about that, but she's okay. She gets her sort of more focused time because he doesn't really bother her so much, where he seems to bother me a lot more. But with regards to how we interact, yeah, it's hard. We pretty much live in each other's pocket 24/7 a lot of the time, because it's work and then it's the parenting and stuff. So we do try to take breaks, and she's probably a lot better. I learnt a term yesterday, what people call self-care. So she's a lot better at the self-care thing, taking her time to doing her own sort of stuff. Well, I thought self-care was maybe something a bit ruder than what it actually is. But she takes a lot of self-care time to get out and actually do some things, where that's probably an area which I don't have a lot of at the moment. I'll take a bit of self-care time around the exercise time, or if I'm lucky around lunchtime, I'll go for a walk or do something like that just to get some fresh air. But I may be like that, where she has that balance. And that's probably what keeps things in sync and allows us to interchange work and the parenting stuff fairly seamlessly a lot of the time.
Do you find yourself striving for this self-care? Like, do you get to the end of the day or the end of the week and go, oh, I've just got to get some time to myself? Or does your exercise and, fill the void, and, that keeps you going well enough?
The exercise is good. If I don't do that, I'll definitely notice a difference. The other part is if I don't get to go and work somewhere else outside of the house, again, I'll get a bit edgy doing that. I even feel just getting on the train, going to the city, working in the city, and coming back out, that's a good way for me to kind of take a break from just being, I don't say trapped's not the right word, but being in the house all day, every day. So that for me, that's kind of, I guess, what my balance is.
Yeah, the self-care stuff's really getting a bit of airtime, which is actually quite a good thing, because it's very, from a health perspective, very important. And parents, especially, generally, it's actually usually mothers that have the least self-care of all. But I was going to ask, how are you finding the intermittent fasting? I will credit, I stole that completely off Tim Ferriss and the internet, but thanks for crediting it to me to pass it on to you.
The first couple of days really difficult, getting through to sort of 10 o'clock. Then after 2 or 3 days, it's fairly easy, especially if you've got stuff on, you don't really notice. So if I started work this morning at around 5:30, then did the kid thing and that sort of stuff. Got to 10 o'clock and I don't even really feel like eating. So
first few days are a bitch though.
Yeah, no, they are. Well, actually, on the self-care thing, going back to what we were discussing before, I was having this discussion yesterday when we had a chop out from my parents, and we went down to the beach for an hour, and we were just talking about different things, just having a look at the water, which was kind of self-care in itself. And yeah, generally, still the stereotype is that the mother does a lot of the looking after of the child. And the isolation that mothers feel and the lack of self-care is a real issue. And just the isolation, once you have a kid, especially as a mum who is in that sort of traditional role still, the only contact they really have with people seem to be like their own mother, and maybe their sister, and then their mother's group of people. And mother's group's not like a sort of, happy, joy, let's have a fun time. It's usually talking about issues with kids, issues with ex, issues with wife. So I do think that self-care for men is important, but self-care for mums, especially new mums when you've got toddlers, is unbelievably important.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's like interesting that you even use the word co-parenting. Like I find that even, and we are in 2019 now, and it should be kind of a normal term, but just even like a out there term. And exactly as you just pointed there, it would be a lot easier to self-care if you do block shifts essentially, where somebody goes, and I mean, we don't have kids, but we will turn around and go, I need this time for X, and just being able to have that conversation to go, can you look after whatever crap that we need to get done, just so that I can, Monday nights are a prime example, go play indoor cricket, which is big self-care. And just the whole co-parenting thing, kind of approaching it that way, I think actually allows for mothers to get a bit more self-care than what would traditionally be done.
Yeah, 100% right. And I guess the challenge with co-parenting is if you're both around all the time. We're trying to make a point now of not both being around all the time. The little fella doesn't need two people looking after him the whole time. A lot of the time he doesn't even need really one looking after him to some extent. He's happy enough to be able to just play at a park or play at X, and you just need to be around to some extent. But having the two people around, makes him much harder to parent, because he can kind of play you off each other and try to manipulate, usually, unfortunately, my partner more than me. But it also means that you do have that ability to go and do something, be it a work-based thing or a non-work-based thing, where you can have a break from the everyday grind of raising a kid.
So I was going to ask, how do you, like, with that and having breaks and that kind of thing, how does your weekend differ much from your day to day? Because I've got a home office and everything set up and that, and my weekends can start to blur into my work weeks, and I do have offices to go to, whereas I know that you do have everything set up completely at home. So do you find that it's all sort of like you use Groundhog Day? Is it all Groundhog Day at the moment, just in the phase that you're in with life with the 3-year-old and everything? Or is there a differentiation between weekday versus weekend day?
Yeah, I think as a small business, it's one of those unfortunate things where, never really stop working. Work's always on your mind to some extent, and you do try to take, mental blocks away from the work somehow, like putting the phone away, doing Y. But unfortunately, it kind of means your work's always on your mind a little bit. Having said that, I won't really do too much work on the weekend outside of maybe a block when he's asleep, one of the 2 days. The other part of the weekend is we will generally do a couple of family things instead of, my partner doing something with him and me doing something with him during the week. On the weekend, we'll all do something together for a day or for at least half a day or something like that. And then we'll just kind of do some self-care things where I'll just go, okay, I'll take him for the next couple of hours, you do something, then she'll take him for a couple of hours and I'll go and do something. So yeah, the weekend, while it does blur a little bit sometimes, we try to do a bit more, all of us together activity. Or, another kid's birthday.
They're always there, aren't they? I was going to say, I think that's pretty good that you do that because, it's. I think he's lucky in a way that he gets to have this because not many, like a lot of kids would be farmed off to, and it's not the parents' fault. They might both have to work. Don't have the luxury of working home, but for your little guy to have mum and dad at home and be able to get that interaction with them 5 days a week and then both on the weekends, I think it's it can only be good for him, I think.
Yeah, we are in a really lucky situation where we work in a knowledge-based business. So it's not, it's not a trade. So we're a knowledge-based business, which we run out ourselves. So we have the luxury is not the right word. We have the choice to choose to do what we're doing. And it does make life probably a fair bit harder than if we did things another way. But at the same time, like parts of the week that I get to spend with the kid, I'll never get to have this time again. So that's a really nice part. And Matt, when you got to stay at home for periods of when your kids were really young, it's a really nice time to have. And I wouldn't swap it for anything. It does make life hard sometimes.
I just want to touch on something you said earlier, Kane, about how you're planning. You've got the Excel spreadsheet on the fridge. So for all these people out there who plan their lives, what are your tips and tricks? I know you've got the Excel spreadsheet. Are you planning 6 months in advance, or just a month at a time, or?
We literally just had this conversation about half an hour ago where my partner was going, okay, in term 2, we'll look at this. I've gone, we can't even think about term 2 yet. Term 1 hasn't even started. We don't know. A couple of activities are new to him. He's new to a Tiny Tots class tomorrow, and he's got swimming this week. Hopefully he likes them both, and they'll be something we do for the rest of this term. So we just do it on a term-by-term basis, on the basis that anything can happen in the next sort of 3 to 6 months. He might drop asleep. He might drop the sleep in the middle of the day, which means we then look at, okay, there's less reason for us to be home at sort of 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. when he needs to sleep. So at the moment, until he drops that sleep, it is sort of on a term-by-term basis.
And follow up with that, with it being so planned and knowing that there's plenty of people out there who are certainly not nearly as planned or proficient in Excel, is there anything that you do, like what's the spontaneousness that you guys have in your routine there? Is there much at the moment, or is it, again, like we're at this phase in life, the kid needs routine, he operates best with routine, and this is what we're doing in the grind at the moment? Or do you try and inject a bit of spontaneous activity?
That's a good question. The sleep's non-negotiable. He needs to be home by midday to sleep at 1. He needs that time to wind down to be able to go to bed at 1 and get some kind of sleep and be up at 3. So between sort of midday and 3, that's non-negotiable. Everything else is fairly up. For me, it's always up in the air. I never have a sort of fixed plan with the little fella on what I'm going to do with him. I'll give him a couple of options and he gets to choose. That doesn't really worry me. It's his life, and I'm just kind of helping him at the moment. So if he wants to go to Bunnings and Aldi, my partner thinks I'm crazy, but he likes it for whatever reason. So if he says he wants to go there, I'll I'm fine with that. If he says he wants to go to the beach, or if he wants to jump in the back of the bike trolley that we've got and I can take him for a ride, I'll do that. So the spontaneity is probably around what he wants to do at certain times more than spontaneity of what the structure of the day may look like.
And what about you and your partner? Is there like plans where you go, okay, well, here we've got a weekend where we can, utilize grandparents or utilize somebody here, and we're gonna just shoot off and do something?
Yeah, there is. Again, a lot of our chop outs are probably only a few hours in duration, and we have requests like when weddings are coming up. We had a wedding a couple of weeks back and got a wedding in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll need people to kind of babysit him and put him to bed at those times. So a lot of the times outside of that, it will be a couple of hours, maybe every second weekend, or if we're lucky, every weekend for a little while. At that point, in all honesty, I'm just happy to go and read the paper in a cafe and have a cup of tea and just maybe sit there in silence. And maybe that's self-care for me. It's discussing this the other day again, like if you have kids, actually going on a holiday is just living in a different location. It's not actually a holiday. A holiday is that time you might get away from the kid, and you might have a micro holiday of an hour or 2 hours. That's a really important time to kind of do something which you really want to do. And I don't want to waste that time jumping in a car and traveling for half an hour or an hour round trip and then only be able to spend an hour doing something where I can just walk down the road, have a cup of tea, read the newspapers and spend 2 hours there.
Form of self-care.
My partner's maybe a bit different, where she'll have ideas in her head that she wants to do X and Y, and they're great ideas, but at the moment they're probably not that practical with regards to the amount of time we can spend away from little fella a lot of the time at the moment.
So ever evolving, I imagine, depending on, as he gets older and does different things and all the other kind of things.
As soon as he drops asleep, it's going to be happy days. Like, it'll be harder because he'll be much crankier in the afternoon. But at the same time, it'll also give us the flexibility. Okay, he's not going to sleep. It doesn't really matter where he is then. I just plonk him at my parents, or the parents-in-law might come round, and he'll be happy enough doing whatever he wants to do there for a day, as opposed to us being, okay, we have to be home by midday because of this sleep thing. But the flip side of that is once he drops asleep, the work thing becomes hard because that 2 hours in the middle of the day, which is always work, kind of disappears. So there is a yin to every yang, or a yang to every yin.
Bit of Kane wisdom there.
And on that note, that does wrap it up for this week. Do subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes, and thanks for listening. We'll be back next week for another episode, or should I say serving, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.